Howdy, howdy, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to the channel. So today I have a little guest here in the studio who is helping me out as best she can. She's cute. That's about all. Yeah, cute. You gonna help me read? No, you're just gonna sit here. Okay. So today we're gonna try to make it through. We got, I think it's like three chapters plus some pages, but it's about the same length as the prologue. This is by no means anywhere completed. And really, it's been years since I've really visited this project, so I don't even know how long these chapters will be. They could end up being relatively short. This could be a very short book at 100 pages. I mean, I really could see something like this. We're on chapter 4, but mainly chapter 4 isn't even really done yet. So, get to maybe not even 100 pages for a book like this. Just a short little novella or a short story. I'm not sure what the page count on that would be. But here we go. Chapter 1. To Sin No More. The Juggernauts continued their assault on Svad for a short while, and then Frostheath, the Juggernaut champion, came forward. He stood over 15 feet tall. Maybe that should be 15 foot tall? Yeah, probably. And was as wide as 2 doors. His entire body had a blue shade to it, and frost appeared on the ground at his feet. He was senior here among the Juggernauts. Among their kind, only one thing mattered: strength. 3 of the 4 clans were represented: Frostheath's water, then fire, and wind. For some reason, the Earth clan had decided to remain neutral. They were by far the largest and held much sway over these proceedings. This time, however, they chose to opt out. You okay? Yeah, you okay? Okay, so far, we're getting the idea that in this world, there are 4 Juggernaut clans, one for each of the elements, and they do appear to have some ability of controlling the elements of their particular element. So, there's that. This human has defied our law. He has been judged and is to be executed. His remains shall hang at the corners of forever lands as a reminder to those who would defy their true masters. His voice boomed out across the masses. Then he turned and said to Savad, "The place of humans is at our feet. They do not know any other way." So that's kind of like he boomed his voice out for the first part, and then he's said that last part to Savad. And then Savad said, "I have shown them another way," through the pain, obviously. It cost him much, but he gasped his defiance. Yes, this is more of like a whisper here. Yes, I wonder about that. How is it that you came to know such a way? That should probably be a question, unless he doesn't care about the answer. We keep our pets on the straight and narrow. Perhaps the children of stone. It would seem that they have distanced themselves from you. That doesn't make sense. Okay, let me back up here. I have shown them another way, which was Savad. And then this is supposed to be Frostheath, his monologue, his kind of like trying to figure out what's going on here. Because he's the champion. He's probably at the top of the list of warriors here, so he's like thinking in his head, like, let's go. Wait a second. Yes, I wonder about that. How did you know? How did you know that way? And so he thought maybe the Earth clan, who is not there, did that. Okay, that makes sense. It would seem that they have distanced themselves from you. That would be more of a Savad line, but I think I would change that to us. Just because that would make more sense. They've distanced themselves from us, because clearly they're not there now. I assure you, the master I served was not of your ilk. Still grasping to the pain. That may be, but it seems your master has forsaken you. No, you shall know the price of your defiance. He motioned to the executioner. Raquel watched the axe drop. In his mind, he saw his retribution. To his dismay, his end was swift and without pain. Do not think yourself lucky, my son. I still have need of you. What? out. So he's, what? Raquel opened his eyes, or he would have if he had any. He saw himself as transparent. We don't need the extra A in there. We're starting to find some more mistakes in here. His flesh was gone. He seen the world around him, but had no flesh to touch it with. Still want to use me even in death. His pain is gone. Obviously, his body's gone. So it's more of like maybe confusion, but also like a determined, like, you still want to use me even in death? I'm not yours any longer. Let me go to the abyss. Look at it this way, my son. I have allowed you to sin no more. Ooh, bum bum bum. There's the. He can't sin if he doesn't have a body. My sin is existence. By allowing me to reason, you allow me to sin. Let me face my fate. So obviously, Savad, Raquel, believes that he came to his decisions on his own, and he made those choices. So by allowing him to continue to be able to exist and to think, he will continue to make those choices that will lead him to sin. My son, this is your fate. Wow, okay, so now, like, the dynamic here has really changed with God. And I don't know why the tone of him changed, because at first, again, there's something happened, because at first God was like the Savior. He was God. He was the Almighty. He was the powerful to Raquel. And then Raquel went to the land of forever, and now the dynamic is different in the sense that God almost seems humanish, and that could be my flaw, but looking at this, like, definitely examining it from that perspective, maybe Raquel has become something more. Oh, to be free. Chapter 2, to be free. How do you like the first chapter so far? It's good? Thumbs up? You like the thumbs up? You want to eat the thumb? Yeah. You can have my thumb. Okay. The two men in the crowd watched as their mentor's life, that should be there, as in their mentor. The two men in the crowd watched, remember this is Caretaker and Prophet. The two men in the crowd watched as their mentor's life was taken from them. I mean, I guess you wouldn't... The two men in the crowd watched as their mentor was taken from them. I mean, that would work too. They waited a short time for the momentum to build. Caretaker raised his hand, but was stopped by his young friend. Let me. I need. Caretaker nodded his consent. He started to say something, but his voice failed. The fear rose too quickly for him to quell it. Ah, see, that's sad. Down with the juggernauts, Caretaker yelled across the crowd. So basically, Prophet tried to, but we talk about Prophet's confidence issue, which is very strange, but also you'll figure out why later, why that is. Most of the humans from the crowd pulled weapons from sheaths. They charged towards the stage. They pushed their enemy back off the platform. So I feel like there's a little bit of a discrepancy here, because earlier I had stated most of them were slaves, some of them were free, or maybe it was the other way around, I don't remember. But obviously the slaves wouldn't have prepared, so maybe I need to word that a little bit better so that it doesn't seem like now there's like magically appearing weapons. But anyway, let's see. Even with their force, the 10 or so... Okay, here we go, yeah. Even with their force, the 10 or so juggernauts, that'd be a plural, were more than enough. Even with their force, the 10 or so juggernauts were more than enough to put up a fight, right, because they're juggernauts. Some drew their weapons and others bore their fists. They counterattacked with great ferocity. Soon the humans found themselves pushed to their limits. Finally, Caretaker relented and brought forth his power. Every juggernaut he touched fell with great pain wherever he touched them. Some fell missing limbs. The juggernaut lost their nerve and retreated, leaving Frostheath to fight alone. He continued to carve a path through his small adversaries until he was faced by a youth. Caretaker recognized him instantly. "Run, Prof! Don't try to fight him alone!" he yelled pointlessly. He watched as the kid approached the juggernaut. Even if Prophet was stronger than him, he couldn't use his power unless he could control his fear. "I will not lose to you. You are weak." Caretaker heard his friend. It had no effect on the giant. Prof, stop, it isn't working. He heard the Juggernaut bellow with laughter. He tried to push through the crowd, but they were falling back from the renewed assault by the Juggernauts. He looked again, and seeing the kid's opponent bring a mighty swing down toward the ground. Prof, no! He yelled as he forced his way the final feet through the crowd. Prophet was on the ground with blood running from his face. Caretaker didn't see any movement, but he had to address the Juggernaut first. Another pitiful human. By your look, you are a caretaker. Shameful. His arrogance and disgust fought for dominance in his speech. I was, but no more. He rushed forward and touched Frostheath's side. The Juggernaut screamed in pain. He looked at Caretaker in confusion. He roared and charged forward. Caretaker dodged the attack and touched the Juggernaut's sword arm. Frostheath dropped his weapon. He looked back towards the man with fear in his eyes. Caretaker witnessed a change in the world. Now Juggernauts had reason to fear. Frostheath was the first, but he would make them all feel fear and pain. Frostheath tried to regain his composure, but he knew it was too late. He lunged at the little human with his good arm. He flinched as he made contact with his prey. Well, it's over. I bet you didn't think this would be happening, ever, he said arrogantly as he touched the Juggernaut's chest where his heart was. Frostheath fell to the ground with searing pain in his chest. Did he teach you this power too? He asked from the ground. No, you did. This is the power of the caretakers. He saw the Juggernaut's eyes go wide in fear. No, that's not possible. Even so, why would you fight so hard against us? We always treated your kind so well. By taking away our choice? No, we fight to be free, not to be favorites. His anger was receding. He was glad because he was finding it hard of late to control his emotions. Interesting, but I don't think it is going to matter much. He stood and yelled to his remaining Juggernauts. Only 2 had been taken down. Fall back, we have lost Water West. Okay, so a lot of stuff is happening there in the sense that, that's a big battle. That's the first battle that we've seen. We're getting an idea of what's happening with the humans and the powers that they may have. So Caretaker is not only a healer, but he can also deal damage as well. And that is a very powerful thing to Juggernauts, because Juggernauts are susceptible to Caretaker's healing, which means that they're also susceptible to the damage that they can do. A little bit of a quid pro quo. They want Caretakers to protect them and to heal them because it works so well. But also when they learn how to turn that against them, they can also harm them even more. So that's why they're weakened to it. Now, Prophet, he says, you are weak. And it doesn't work. So the idea there is, does he have the ability as a speaker? What kind of power does he have? So that's something that we get into. You think for a second, okay, we're about to see something. It doesn't work. So here we go. Chapter 3. You ready? Yep. Okay. To learn the truth. The young Juggernaut walked through the crowd listening to the news of the human uprising. Many were surprised by their success, but Spike had learned from an early age about war. The humans had reason and they had will. He wouldn't be surprised if they earned a place in the world. Soon human cities would rise. He was actually happy that the world was changing. For a Juggernaut of so few seasons, Spike already had a strong build as well as great wisdom. The elders of his tribe said that he would be a warlord before 10 more seasons. At least they said it would happen as long as he learned who held the true power. But Spike already knew the truth of things. A strong warlord must lead his people, all of them. Whether they liked it or not, even the elders would bow while in his hold. Okay. This human uprising did, however, change the scope of his plans. He knew that they would win. He had been taught from an early age to read the signs of war in order to determine the outcome before a single battle was even fought. His assessment? The humans would soon live free without any rule but their own. So this is a little, I don't know if this is supposed to be the next paragraph, but, it's kind of hanging out there. And With this in mind, there was only one course of action. He had decided between fighting a lost battle alongside his brethren, or he could join the humans and ride the landslide to victory. His decision was obvious. Choose the winning side. Now that seems kind of negligent in the sense that we talked about him having great wisdom, but also great tactical knowledge. You would think that he would want to win of his own volition instead of assessing this. But he already said previously, you could tell by the way that the world is changing, and he already had plans to make that happen. So this could really just be in line with what he had already wanted. But there was a power struggle that he didn't like that was happening in the upper echelons of the society. So he really wanted to make a change here. So this is helping him. Okay. You are quiet today, or at the very least, more so than usual. What kind of things can my son have to think about? Spike's father, that would be how you would do that. Spike's father whispered from his position beside him. The future, he responded softly. A dangerous prospect for any to ponder, especially in these troubled times. True, but the outcome is so blatantly obvious. Yeah, that's two. Fixing it as we go along. To resign ourselves to a neutral post when the dirt has been tilled, the crop is promising to be bountiful. Obviously, using the earth references here. My son, when did I ever teach you to be so greedy? Greed, father? Greed is the law of the land. Greed is the law of the elders and warlords and of all things. I wish to step over this line that has been drawn by our undeserving ancestors and unshackle our people and allow for truth to be held by all. His father stepped and grabbed his shoulder. He squeezed harder than ever before, nearly causing an injury, a bruise for sure. Their eyes met, and Spike knew right then what side his father was on. Never again shall you speak those words. I had known you were ambitious, but to even think, he paused to look around. You have a potential that has not been seen in hundreds of years. Your name should be in the holy book alongside our great kings and warlords. You should reign as a god among our people. Do not squander your opportunity. He knew that he should stop, but it was too late. You have been a great teacher, but your ignorance has rooted between us. You have chosen your path, and I have chosen mine. Goodbye, father. This is where our allegiance ends. Ooh, so he, this is just supposed to be like a conversation over, I don't even know where they're at. They're whispering, so maybe they're in public or in a forum or something. And he literally just cut ties with him. Boom, right here. He's like, we're done. That seems it seems abrupt. His father stood silently watching his only son walk away through the crowd. Outside, anger radiated his granite features, but inside a calm and peace ruled. Spike was following exactly the course that he had set him on. Now was the time to return and prepare for the time when his son would return and bid for the tribes of earth to rise the stone and crush their enemies to dust. So he's the father of Spike. He perpetrated, he instigated his son into that path and taught him all those things so that he would do exactly that. But he had to do it from a position where it didn't look like he had done it himself. Spike had cut himself off and left on his own, and the father is now working on the inside to make his son's dreams a reality. Yeah. Love you. You got something to say? Yeah. We're doing some reading. You want me to get back to it? No. Times were changing, and change was good. Things were to be boring when nothing changed. Grandfight, son of Atlas, tapped his foot to create a cloud of dust and vanished. Boom. So again, Atlas being one of the Titans, which is a giant, So Grand Fight is like a descendant from a giant, so he knows. He has knowledge of things, so he knows something that we spoke about in a different video, so he knows. The crowd thinned slightly the closer Spike got to Assembly Hall. The two-story building with fine stonework and stained glass windows wasn't his destination, but he still looked like the feel of the building. It was said to have been built by the combined efforts of the Earth and Water tribes many years ago. The last time progress was ever made, in Spike's opinion. He made his way around the Grand Chapel and turned down a branch street. Okay, so let's talk about something real quick here. Let's see, many years ago, right? So we're getting the feel that humans and Juggernauts don't live the same type of lifespan, especially depending on how close they were to their lineage, which Grand Fight is the son of Atlas, who was a giant, and Spike is not that old. How old is Grand Fight? So you're like, it's not human time. So it's really interesting to. I might have to work with those numbers a little bit to make them seem a little bit like pop out more, in the sense that like Grand Fight is old, very old. Spike, not so much. So there's a little bit of fudginess there. He made his way around the Grand Chapel and turned down a branch street. There were a few buildings, and beyond that was the barracks. It held the soldiers and their caretakers. Spike approached the gates. Shield Wall, Squad 2, First Spike of the Boulder Rock Hold, reporting for duty. The two guards looked at each other. Spike noted that a small human stood behind one of them, a sign of wealth for a guard to have a caretaker. We have not been informed of any promotions. Please verify. Denied. I don't know why that just makes me chuckle. Denied, Spike said. Because he's a commanding officer. He's like, I don't have to answer your questions. The two guards, because let's go back here and talk about this. Shield Wall Squad 2. First Spike of the Boulder Rock Hold, reporting for duty. That's a promotion, right? Now, he is the son of a very prominent, of an elder. But if he's talking about a promotion, that means he's the first Spike, which means he has started his own hold. He started his own tribe. He's separated from his father, first Spike of the Boulder Rock Hold. So now they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. The two guards looked at each other. They didn't know how to handle a situation like this. Oh, it's okay. You got the coffees? It's okay. Let's see. By denying Spike, let's see here. They didn't know how to handle a situation like this. Even a warlord had to verify a promotion. By denying Spike was insinuating that he stood above all others. He doesn't need to verify because he doesn't need to get it checked out. He is in charge. That's all that matters. So he's really getting the wheels rolling here by stating, I am above everybody. Please verify, the guard said again. I don't know what to do. Spike pushed past the two bewildered guards and pulled the gates apart. The guards gulped as they watched 30 tons of metal being moved with ease. I said denied. But the guard stammered to a distant Spike, whom was already reaching the clearing that held the training grounds. It's okay. It's okay. We're just doing some reading. Let's see. When Spike reached the center of the grounds, he stopped and surveyed the soldiers' training. An instructor noticed him and started toward him, yelling up a storm. When he got close enough to identify Spike, he stopped yelling, "My lord, what are you doing here?" "From henceforth I am a soldier. My last decree is to join the Shield Wall Squad 2. The instructor nodded, understanding. "I am to be addressed as the first Spike of Boulder Rock Hold." So he's denouncing his lordship, his lordhood, his status as a lord, to be identified as a soldier, to be a part of the group. Which is it's interesting to see how that's going to play a dynamic here, in the fact that, in their culture, moving from that revelty, the nobility of being a lord, he's now like saying, I'm no longer that, gone. And then I'm the first Spike. So that means that he's taking the steps as like a warlord, but he's also doing something a little bit different in the context of this. It's all a little bit jumbled up here. The instructor started choking as he took in the last. He stared at Spike for a few minutes before he spoke. First Spike? Are you certain you wish for me to follow these orders? I would be honored to under proper protocol, but this is different, First Spike. He's already doing it because this person has more authority than him, but he's asking him, like, is this what you truly want? Because this is bending not only protocol, but this is a shift in the dynamic of the culture that puts him and accelerates him at a level beyond just a normal thing. Follow my orders or walk a different path. It is your choice. But first, decide which path is more desirable. On one hand, you have protocol, you have order and rules, the same as we have always had. Or you have change. Follow my orders, make new protocol, have new orders and new rules. Put an S in there. New orders, new rules. Together, we can change our world. Powerful. He's breaking everything. The instructor was confused by the speech, but became even more so when he heard muttering from nearby soldiers. He now realized that the speech was for everybody. Their barracks were the barracks of Grandfight, son of Atlas, first Grandfight of the Grand Mountain Hills hold. Now it seemed that the first Spike of Boulder Rock hold was their new master. An army of 200 juggernauts, now ruled by a radical. So we basically just summed up everything that just happened there, is the fact that if you're the first of your name, the first Grand Fight, Spike has separated himself from that. The Grand Mountain Hills hold seems like this is a big deal. He has separated himself from him. He's no longer a part of that, and he's taken 200 juggernauts, which we just saw in the last chapter. 10 juggernauts. Only 2 of them died. One of them, like Frostheath, like theoretically he took damage that should have stopped any normal juggernaut, but he's not a normal juggernaut. So now you have this really interesting concept here where now he's taken 200 juggernauts. That's an army. That's an army. Change? No, this was a revolution. 200 times bigger than the human uprising. Okay. The world would definitely have changed. Mountains will crumble, waters will boil, and fire will cease to burn. That's a direct reference to the tribes, basically. Except for air. Not sure if air. The instructor shook his head. He wasn't a shaman or seer, but even he could see the beginning of the end. Fear gripped him at the prospect of such a gruesome prophecy unfolding. That's a redundancy there. My first proclamation is to set you all free of the restraints of our ancestors. I shall reveal to you the truth of our people, so that we may move forward and create progress together. Our people. And I thought I changed this, but I guess, well, all the other changes that I did, kind of trying to format it in a good way here. Okay. Now we've only got a page and a half left for Chapter 4, and then we'll have to do a little bit of conversating. Chapter 4, to prophesize the future. Water West was lost to the Juggernauts, and was unusable by the newly freed humans, so they burned it to the ground with great delight. The Water West hold nearby had said that a flame would never be seen in their dwelling. Now the whole city was ablaze, and they watched almost teary-eyed, having lost to their former slaves. Caretaker was healing Prophet's wounds, as well as overseeing the other caretakers and their small remaining army. They only had about 6 healers left, and those few being rather inexperienced for such wounds as these caused by Juggernauts. Normally they healed wounds caused by Juggernauts, but caused to other Juggernauts, not other slaves. The observation of the aftermath slipped from Caretaker's mind, as he realized the contents of his thoughts. First, he still seen himself from a third-person point of view and not as an individual. Second, he displayed arrogance at his fellow healers' weaknesses. Third, and maybe worst of all, he referred to them as other slaves and not as freemen, as they all now were. So earlier when I said, we're talking from the perspective of the slaves, the rebel slaves, Caretaker is really ingrained. It's in his person to think that way. Prophet abruptly snatched away his partially healed foot, grumbling about losing his war scars. He was very odd at times. At one point, he showed a very shy and innocent youth, but at others, he was a bust in with guns blazing kind of guy. That makes no sense. Oh, okay. See, again, I haven't read this in so long. That having been Savad's phrase. Because obviously they wouldn't know what that is, but, that'd be... He turned toward a clearing to the east, where they had placed the body of their savior. They had entombed him in a hollow and sealed it with a large boulder. A little on the nose, I think. They didn't know his customs, so they used the Juggernaut's way. In the tomb surrounding him were the bodies of all those that had fallen. A commotion brought Caretaker out of his stupor, long enough for him to notice that Waterwest was only a memory. Charred husks were all that remained. Even the streets had crumbled from the intense flames. Okay, and that's it. That's what we've got here. That is what we have so far for Land of Forever. That's where I stopped. I don't know. I definitely feel like there's definitely some... It's a very short story. It's not meant to be something elaborate. It's just telling the story of what's happening. There's some things that can be changed. There's definitely a story blossoming there. We have a couple of different points of view right now from the Juggernaut side. From the human side, we might even throw in some Juggernaut, like Frostheath. He's been introduced. Maybe you'll get to see him next. Watching his... Not his... Like, basically, as you figured out from the Spike's segment, they have the chapel that was built with the help of multiple Juggernauts. Now you have Waterwest, which is a major pinnacle point, being lost so readily to the humans, but in such a way that the humans couldn't use it. So they destroyed it, which was just a snub to the Juggernauts, because this was a pinnacle city for them. This was not necessarily like their hold is nearby, so you can't use it because there's Juggernaut reinforcements that could show up. But the city itself was a memorial, a memento, it was on the map kind of city. Hi. So there's Land of Forever. We've got the outline in the book here that we'll be taking a look at, maybe doing some more chapters. And there you have it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And remember, always remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And we'll see you in the next one.